Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you doing?
Well, I've got so many emotions going on, Rachel, that I cannot contain all of them. I'm feeling very happy. I'm feeling very satisfied. You know, when you get a nice meal made for you, perhaps one of your favorite dishes, and you haven't had it in a long while, and it's exactly what you need of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really am feeling that sensation, and I don't know why. Perhaps we'll find out as we discuss this particular episode of science fiction television show, but I have that satisfaction of a fine meal given to me, one that I've just been craving. So how are you doing? It's very yum, by the way, but how are you doing? I got you. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Just okay?
No, I'm okay. Because I don't want to have to explain what yum yum is, and I get the feeling that you're gonna try and make me.
Well, everyone that is tuning in for the first time, I'm Ryan and that's Rachel, and we are a married couple. That's right. I married Rachel. I know, it's a real surprise that I was brave enough to do that, but I did do the deed, and a part of our marriage, a deal in the contract, was that we go through episodes of science fiction television, one episode at a time, and we review them, and we talk about them.
Vows. That's not in them.
I'm pretty sure that's in them.
That's not part of the contract.
It's in the contract. Just look in the fine print. And we are talking about The Expanse. This is a series that we have not seen before. It's one of the big ones. It's heralded as one of the great science fiction series of recent years, but it has managed to pass us by all of this time. So on this podcast, we thought we would put that wrong right, just like Sam Beckett in Quantum Leap, where he's traveling back in time to put things right that were once wrong. Now we're doing that with The Expanse, and we are called Yum Yum because we started out talking about Star Trek Discovery, and a line of dialogue from that series was so annoying to us and yet inspiring, and that line was yum yum. It's a throwaway line, but it's one that is so just out of left field that it is haunting me right now even discussing it. But Rachel, what episode of The Expanse are we talking about today?
Home.
Yeah, I'm home. We recorded this in our home. Many people, Yumlings, think that we have a professional recording studio that we travel all the way into the city to use, but no, this is a homegrown setup here. But what's the episode of The Expanse, Rachel?
Get fucked, Ryan.
It's weird that they would write an episode title like that, considering that there's no character called Ryan in this series.
No.
Do you think we'll ever get one? Do you think we'll get a Ryan?
A Ryan.
Yeah. And
Maybe.
Have we had a Rachel yet? Maybe. I'm not too sure. We've had a lot of people, but we are actually talking about what episode, Rachel? What one was it again? What's the title?
It's season 2, episode 5, called Get Fucked Ryan.
So we are actually talking about Get Fucked Rachel, one of the highest rated episodes, if not the highest rated episode of The Expanse, where it's a compelling story about how Miller finally gets over Rachel's bullshit and accepts love of Havelock at a very close personal range. Have you noticed that the good episodes have not had Havelock in them? I've noticed a correlation with that. Strange. But we are talking about Home, which is a beloved episode of this series. Even just giving it a skim on just the IMDb. Rachel, you're going to read the description for us now. Tell us what it has to say about this big episode.
The asteroid Eros takes direct collision course towards Earth.
Simple. Straight to the point.
No, there's more.
There's more, but keep going. It's simple, straight to the point, great plot. Go.
Sorry.
You should be.
The Rocinante chases it. As last defense, Earth launches missiles against Eros. Miller went inside Eros and makes a surprising discovery.
Tell me, Colonel Janus, how does a big rock like Eros suddenly turn into a ship?
Madam, I don't know.
We like to have a little bit of fun and talk about what was particularly yum to us when going through the episode. And yum from Discovery has an innate sexual quality, that line. And so what did we find yum in this episode? What made you want to lick your lips, throw your hair back, and say yum?
Well, do you want my Amos pick or my non-Amos pick?
Yeah, give me your automatic Amos response. Whatever the phrase we came up with. I remember I said annual Amos pick, and you're like, it's not annual, it's every episode.
Yeah, sorry.
But what is it? I have mine.
I went with the easy choice of when he says that massive heat spike.
Oh, I thought you were going to pick when he said, there goes my spleen. After they went real fast and the actor gave an O face while saying it. It made me go, whoa.
Yes.
Oh, now I'm a vanilla man, but I'm getting a little freaky here on the pod today because nothing sexier than a naked lady that's also made out of blue goo.
My non-Amos pick is the kiss. Specifically between Julie and Miller.
Miller going after younger women who are also blue goo. Got me going. Quick thoughts on Home. We haven't seen it before. This is the first time. And so walking out of it, what do you think?
It's really solid. Like, it's fully the Expanse at its best.
That's a perfect way to describe it. We've had issues with The Expanse being able to juggle all of the plot stuff, the lore, the exposition, and often forgetting to juggle the most important ball, which is character and its development of them. And not just development of them, but also just letting us spend time. And some of the greatest episodes of this series are the ones that focus way more on it. But you get ones like Home, where it can have its cake and eat it too. It can juggle all of the balls. This is a very plot-centric episode, and the plot is simple. Keep it simple, stupid. And that is a good writing trick because you read it. The Eros station is heading towards Earth, and all of our characters, except for the Martian Marines, who are absent, and I thought they were going to be here in my previous prediction, but they're absent. All of our characters have thoughts on that, and they're trying to stop it. And even though many of them don't know one another, haven't met one another, they're all working together for a common good. And it is delightful. I really enjoyed this one. It's possibly one of my favorite episodes that we've seen of the series thus far. And I just had it made me excited to want to watch more episodes. And that is the benefit of season 2 thus far, is even with the previous one we didn't like so much, it still had that yearning from me to want to watch more, which season 1 was dreadfully lacking. Outside of being told that The Expanse is this big show that I should care about, season 1 just didn't have that push forward for me as a viewer, while season 2, right out of the gate, has had that push. And this episode is episode 5. Previously last season, episode 5, I do believe, was the one we liked the least. And here it is. It's one of the greatest of this season thus far. Can't wait to see where we go. So, Rachel, where should we kick off? What should we discuss first?
The UN is a shit show.
What? The UN? But they have everything together. Now that they've kicked out the level-headed admiral, I'm sure that they have someone there to be the voice of reason, possibly that new head of the fleet who is just so wise and had so many great ideas. I'm sure they're and Aaron Wright, of course, he's a noble man. I'm sure that he's got so many wonderful suggestions to bring to the table, right?
Yeah, of course. That's 100% right, Ryan.
Have you ever noticed that often when we discuss The Expanse, we want to talk about Earth first. Haha, Earth first. Earth first, just because it's not only separate from what the other things have going on, but it's also just the best stuff that you get in an episode.
Yeah,
and so
you always want more Christian.
We always want more Christian.
You always want it.
But
you always want more Brian George as well.
Oh my god, I saw his name in the credits and I wept tears of joy. I love Brian George and he gives me everything I want of him in this episode and more, but we'll get to Brian George in a second. Earth is having to deal with this crisis. They're having a delay in time because of the distance and space and all of that is happening. So we get to have the absolute sheer amount of irony throughout their story and tension as well, because Miller and Holden and Johnson and whoever else that is dealing with Eros have basically boots on the ground approach to it, while Earth, they're so far away that everything is just that little bit off, off. And so they're having to make calls. They're having to make decisions that aren't wise, but yet you understand why they're doing it, because they lack the intel, they lack the information and the ability to make wiser calls, whether it is because of this time delay or just sheer hubris and arrogance, the military might, the military rule, and just plain old fear. So what do you think about the UN stuff in this episode? Because now we have their official set, their little room where they yell at each other. Yeah, their little bunker with the table with the holograms on it. How do you feel about how this series is implementing this into it far more often and having them be a gaggle of people who are making pig-headed decisions?
It makes a lot of sense and oddly feels right. It's a very honest reflection of humanity, which is the right call for the world that the Expanse is building. But it's also odd because it's so much about Earth, but we get to know and understand so few people that are on Earth. And the kind of point is that they're disconnected from humanity, even though they're representing it, which makes it very unique.
The threat of Earth doesn't have the usual weight that you have in a story, and this is being said as a compliment from me, because Earth no longer feels like home. It feels like an idealized version, a dream. And so Earth being destroyed is, oh no, this nebulous concept that is being taken away, rather than if the belt got destroyed or if even Mars got destroyed in this conflict, because those areas mean so much more to the characters that we follow. While Earth, we have Christian, and so we have to rely on her and her feelings about things and how she's trying so hard to keep it all together, and yet everyone else in the room has the wrong approach or the wrong ideas and or are just afraid and incompetent. But this show frames the UN as villainous at times. I mean, we have Aaron Wright. He's arguably the villain of the show that we have going on continuously.
Yeah, he's the face of the corporation that we've gotten to know more so than Mao himself.
And I wanted to bring up that point is Mao is not in the episode and he gets called up by Aaron Wright in one of the greatest scenes in the episode. It's short, it's quick, but it communicates so much of Aaron Wright being left on a voice message. Clearly, it doesn't say that, but he's clearly not getting to talk to Mao, and he's just yelling about how, where are you now? Your science experiment's running loose, and I've been left holding the bag, you fuck! Call me back! I got so much pleasure out of hearing Ehrenreich drop the F-bomb in the episode. He deserved it.
He really did.
He deserved it. He used it well, and the actor just the mustard he put on that line delivery was so good.
You call yourself a man of the system, but I'm not. Earth is my home. So whenever you're ready, I'd really appreciate it if you make a fucking appearance and rein in your goddamn science experiment!
We understand why each of them are in the position that they're in. Even the secretary of the UN, who we've barely gotten to know at all, we understand him and his position.
He seems like a puppet.
Yeah, he really does.
Where Christian and Ehrenreich pull his strings, and he has to decide which one is the puppeteer today.
Yes. But, the best leaders are influenced by their advisors.
That is very true, but
that's not how he comes across, because we're not getting his point of view, we're getting their point of view.
And he's having to weigh it up.
Yep.
Which is one of the most horrible things to do in a moment where the entire safety of the world is in your hands and you are having to make the decision of which way to go. And we get that stressed a lot. The Secretary General, I don't even know his name, but he had this magnificent little quote he was giving off about how much this is a burden for him and how this choice to make the citizens of Earth flee and give up Earth. They're surrendering in a way after the missiles are gone, and they've even just the sheer thought of launching pretty much all of their missiles into space at this target is just, it's real now.
Yeah.
Christian talks about the same thing as does Ehrenreich, and just, have you ever thought about when this day would come and how you would react? And Christian just gives a quiet nod of the head and a gentle smile. Of course she thinks about it all the time.
There's subtlety in those scenes where they provide a nice balance to the action-heavy plots that are happening out in space.
The general, who is militaristic and very much wanting to just attack, he is the most negative presence in that room. And yet, what he wants is what they go with in the end.
Mm-hmm.
What he's angling for is the correct choice, but it's his mentality that is the issue here. And that's what I just delight in so much when it comes to the Earth side of thing. They get into so much of the bureaucracy and the finer details, and you can break it down on paper about how these are the correct choices, but you have to go deeper than that to realize that the motivations behind those quote-unquote correct choices are deeply flawed and deeply human.
Yeah.
That's what's really just so enrapturing about the UN is they're flawed in the most human of ways. They're greedy, they're pig-headed, they're militaristic, they're afraid. Christian isn't perfect. She's afraid during all of this episode. Throughout the whole entire episode, she lets go of any of the cards she was holding in the political Machiavellian style to give in to...
There's something more important now. She doesn't need to worry about maintaining that face for Ehrenreich because there's a bigger thing going on.
She was willing to drop the persona in that room to be the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Fred Johnson calls up at one point and basically says, give me control of all of your weaponry right now and just trust me. And Christian steps up to the plate and says, well, there's nothing to lose. Let him have it. When Holden calls up and says, hey, I'm in charge of this, she vouches for him personally, even though he is in this universe Mr. Bad Guy number 1 to the UN, at least. He's been embroiled in how many different conflicts that have screwed over Earth?
Yeah, he's... They're not his number 1 fan.
No.
Fair to say.
Instead of leaving Earth as the story in which we see how they are managing a conflict, and Christian is managing the conflict that she's been worried about her entire life, which is the destruction of Earth and humanity. They go that step further and go into what makes her a person, her relationships to not just her job, but to her family. I knew Brian George was going to be in the episode because we saw his name in the credits, but I almost forgot that he was going to appear in the episode because so much time had passed.
Yeah.
And so much stuff was happening that I not only was I surprised to see him, but I underestimate the Expanse at times when it comes to what they're willing to give us, because if you told me that we were going to have a very quiet, slow scene between these this husband and wife in their twilight years and talking about everything going on.
Yes.
I wouldn't have believed
what
you.
they don't need to say to each other as well, and them both trying to navigate the delay and talking over each other, but the ease at which that frustration disperses.
Oh, so just to give a bit of clarity, Christian takes a moment to go into her office, call up her husband to talk potentially for the last ever time, because she's going to stay on Earth.
Yep.
She will stay and look at this right in the eye, because that's who she is. And you would not respect me if I did otherwise. And I commend the script writers, the direction, and Brian George. Instead of doing the opposite thing of the classic, no, Christian, that's not it at all, come back here with me. He nods, he agrees. He's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed his line about, like, when did I marry such a wonderful woman?
Oh, my Lord, you're lucky. Oh, wow. So it's this really tender, yet strained conversation because of this delay, but also just the gravity of it all. They're saying goodbye to one another, but also from his side of it. And we've discussed this with his character a lot. He's very fascinating, and he's only minor in this series. He's only in it a little bit, but what a fascinating role to be, which is the husband to such a powerful person who's in peril a lot. And he just says it. He says, I've been practicing this conversation for years, for decades. And yet, I still can't get it out. He tries to stop her and go, now let me just say it. Let me say all of it. And she still interrupts him. She still cuts him off because that's who she is.
Yep.
She always needs to get a word in, a word over him. And my Lord, I mean, I'm just gushing about this scene, but please talk to me a bit about what you thought of it and just your reactions to it as it was unfolding, because it does come quite a bit into the episode.
I also felt prepared for it, but not because I saw his name in the credits. I didn't particularly pick up on that. I often try to not look at the credits, so I don't know who's coming.
That's fair.
You get much more excited by that.
I also like learning actors' names.
Yes.
That's my deal. But you're right. There's a sense in the episode that it would be dishonest if he does not appear.
Yes. If she's dealing with all of this and doesn't talk to him, that wouldn't match the kind of relationship that we have been experiencing between the two of them. And then the other thing where I was just like, oh, I feel like she's definitely going to call him or he's going to call her, was Erin Wright's failed phone call.
Yeah, with Mal.
Yeah, I felt like that's that was opening the door up for this scene in a way.
Yeah, and it flags up too with all of them that the characters either don't have family, or the family that they have are with them, like on the Rossi, or in Miller's case, the Rossi and even Julie. But she has a family who is off in the distance, far away, and she has to talk to them. Like, that's her lifeline that she has left, because the job is gone now. Earth is gone now.
Yeah.
In her eyes, this is what's left on the chopping block. And it's one of the core pillars of her character is she's the politician, the wife, the grandmother. It goes on. And just on an emotional level, what did you feel about this scene? Because we love Christian in many folds, but
I thought it was very romantic because it is a honest and truthful depiction of that kind of relationship where they've been together a long time, and it does feel like they fully love and accept each other, and that they're the best kind of marriage and partnership, and that they don't want to erase parts of the other person to make life easier. That's what I really took away from it, and it just left me thinking, oh,
there's a history. The writing obviously does a lot, but you cast two actors who have been in this field of work for decades. Both of them great character actors, but both of them just have just such worn faces. They just, everything is in those eyes and those cheeks and the brow and everything. And I know that I have said Brian George a lot on this podcast, and it's because he's a wonderful character actor, and to be sincere, he's usually a comedic one. I always think of him for The Bubble Boy or Seinfeld, or even in Deep Space Nine. He's not funny, but also he kind of is. Yet in this series, he has his moments, but I've never seen Brian George gives such dramatic range as he does in this singular phone call where he's not in the room with her, and yet I felt that this is a relationship that has been culminating to this potential outcome for decades,
and it's always been there.
I know it hasn't even been easy. I know that, and I'm sorry.
Stop it. Stop. Never have to apologize to me.
What this episode has is a lot of showing rather than telling. We get told what we need to, but there's a reliance on the visuals and just those actors imbuing the material with so much more.
It feels like they've put a lot of trust in the actors, and the actors have trust in the writers.
And Fred Johnson is a great example of that as well, where this actor, he comes in and he has all of these nuances in his expressions and his inflections of the words that he says, because Fred Johnson's side of the story is he's having to be, in a way, the hub point for the conflict, where he's getting to talk to Holden, he's getting to hear from Holden about Miller, he's getting to talk to Earth, and he's getting to get Earth to talk to Mars.
He's the relay point.
He's the relay point, and when push comes to shove, he has the ability to help Earth because Earth has launched all of these nukes, but Eros Station has gone into stealth mode. But since the Rossi is right next to Eros Station, they can track it, send it back to Johnson, and Johnson needs the codes, needs all of the stuff, the controls for the missiles to help launch them at Eros Station. So he goes over to Earth, he phones them up and says, "You need to trust me." And he is burdened with the ultimate choice of, once he's given the power, do you use it rightly?
Yeah.
His right-hand woman, who we have yet to get her name, and I know some people have told us it, but I'm waiting for the show to tell me it. She does bring it up.
Yeah.
You have the ability to change the tide of power right now. You're the most powerful man in the entire universe today. And obviously, we know that Johnson's going to be a good man and he's going to do the right thing. And he says as much and he does as much. Yet, there's something within his expressions and his body language and the way he says certain lines that did make me doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have that?
Yeah, of course I did. Because it's just like, where are you going to go? You have this reputation and it's been explained in a way where we think it is one thing, but we don't know the truth behind the butcher. I am at least trying to judge him by his actions now. And that just makes him as dubious.
Because we do know why he's the butcher and how he's left, but there's still so much left on the table to be explored. But you're right, you're trying to judge him on his actions, but we've also seen him be power hungry and to be violent and to be cruel. They reference the Mormons in the episode, that Fred Johnson just barged in there with all of his soldiers and kicked them off and did this. And we know that there was justifiable reasons for that, but it doesn't bode well for anyone else.
No. And you understand why everybody has the opinion of him that they do.
This episode is paced perfectly because this is only a small fraction of what's going on, and it doesn't feel unnecessary.
No.
It feels not only necessary, but it also just...
It's still a part of the whole.
And it makes me like Fred Johnson as a character more, and this is something we've often railed against when we've discussed television shows, which is I hate this complaint of there's just not enough time. Not enough episodes. We no longer have 22 episodes a season. We no longer have 26 episodes. No, it's about how you use your time.
Yeah, and what you choose to tell and what you choose to show.
And how you do it. And this is an example of that.
The execution.
This is an example where he's only a bit of flavoring in this particular story, but it has made me so much more ingratiated to his character and where we can go with him. Today, he had the ability to change the entire landscape of the galaxy, and yet he didn't.
No. You question whether if he was given that opportunity even a month ago, would that have been the decision that he made then?
I have a negative in home that I want to flag up, and I'm really wondering if you noticed this. They had a lot of nerd talk.
Yes.
I had flashbacks, almost traumatic flashbacks to Babylon 5, where in Babylon 5, the writer JMS would go out of his way to just ring around the necks of nerds saying, here's the reason why things are the way they are. You can't complain now. And this episode had way too much of that, where the crew of the Rossi especially had a lot of, well, how can Miller be moving and still alive on this ship and the station is moving like this? Well, it could be this. No, in fact, I think it's this. Well, this goes, and they literally said lines like, well, this doesn't go against this scientific theorem at all. And Naomi might as well have turned to the camera and said, so you can't complain, nerds. We did the maths on this one. We did the science on this one. I don't believe for a second, for one singular second, that the crew of the Rossi would have even had that conversation at all.
Nah,
that's for the audience.
Yeah, like...
I don't believe that they're having conversations about scientific equations and blah while a crisis is going on like this.
I do think Naomi would have thought through all of that. I do, because she does give that impression that she follows through on all of these avenues of thinking and wants to be precise in the way that she approaches a problem.
But it's fucking wild that Amos is also speaking technobabble in that scene.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wild.
But I like the way that the actor plays it.
He's great.
Like, oh yeah, the math thing. I'm totally trying to
Keep up with that.
Naomi just swoops in and he's just like, ah.
Maybe this is my sci-fi nerd factor of I actually don't like it in science fiction shows when they feel the need to address these type of concerns that audience members will bitch about on the forums or whatever. I just roll my eyes at it and it always takes me out. But you are a different type of viewer to me. Yes. And so what are your thoughts on it? Is this a negative? Was this something that stood out to you in the episode at all?
It was so quick, I didn't really care. Like, it didn't snag my brain like it clearly has done for you. I was just like, oh, they're throwing out some shit. Let's see what they do with it.
And the focus is on how Naomi is handling this, as you said. And so we do know her character to be the more analytical thinker of this group. And so her running through all of the potential scenarios and how they are happening makes sense. It lines up with her. I just find it a little bit too writerly for my taste. What I liked more was how she felt the burden and the guilt and the responsibility for Miller, which has been her relationship to every male character in the entire series except for Alex, I guess. She doesn't feel this way for Alex, but she feels it for Amos, she feels it for Holden, she feels it for Miller. She has this, I don't want to say maternal figure role, but it also kind of is.
Yeah. I get what you mean. It's that sort of nebulous distinction between maternal and motherly for me.
It's not sisterly.
Nope.
I liked Naomi a lot in this episode, and because of her relationship with Miller, I thought that the actress was allowed to display a whole range of emotions. She got to be funny in this episode, or at least have a humorous sequence where Miller is talking about the hotspot thing and, oh, Naomi, your hotspot, and everyone raises their eyebrows in the old 1960s sitcom way and the way the music plays. But I thought the actress was allowed to play a lot more with this character. And I felt for her because no one else really in the crew of the Rossi cared for Miller. Not really. They knew him for a second.
It was different. It was different between the two of them. And it was nice to see the way that they brought out each other's sort of cultural identity as belters.
Oh, yes. And they didn't go the way of Naomi gets sadder and sadder as the story goes along because Miller's impending doom is getting more concrete. They go the opposite way where she becomes more accepting of it and she actually not just let go. She doesn't just let go of Miller, but she sees it from his point of view. Because he's been very cool, calm, and collected about the entire thing, and that was puzzling to her.
Yes.
In the previous episode, and definitely at the start of this one. Mm-hmm. And what a refreshing thing to do with Naomi, because I think too much they rely on make woman sad through Journey story with her at times.
Yeah.
And they went the opposite way here, and it actually made me also accept what was happening to Miller. Did it do that for you?
Yeah. Yeah, like it gave me a sense of reassurance.
We need time to clear the blast radius if he's late.
Hey, easy there, Chief. You do realize that docking with arrows ain't gonna be a cakewalk, right? That's a moving target. That station so much as twitches while we're swooping in, they're gonna be sending what's left of us home in a doggy bag.
He's risking his ass down there. How about we do the same up here?
I got chills when Eros Station went into stealth mode and they said that. It had that
so fun.
It had that sci-fi cheese that I love so much in these shows, where the camera zoomed in and the music swelled and the guy turned around and said, "It's gone into stealth," and everyone's like, "What the fuck?
What?
It can't do that.
It's an asteroid.
It's an
It's not meant to
asteroid.
be flying."
What the flying fuck?" And then the crew on the Rossi just shrugging, and of course it's going into stealth mode. Obviously, what is new in our life? Oh,
you mean
boy.
things are fucking up even more?
All right, now we have to make a Sophie's choice. And Holden, it's up to you to do it. And in the Naomi stuff that we were going through, she makes a real point that, hey, Holden's not as bad as you think he is, Miller. And she looks at the audience and says, and Ryan, he has layers.
Rest assured.
Naomi stroked her hand, reached out of the screen and stroked my face and said, Holden's a good character, Ryan. He has layers. Have you noticed that he has layers? He does not do bad things. Bad things happen to him. He's a nuanced character, Ryan. And then she slapped me.
You mean like what Christian says about Holden as well?
Yes. He's not his fault. He's not
I vouch for him.
I vouch for him. He's not a bad guy. He's just misunderstood.
He's just at the center of all of these awful things.
He's just unlucky guy. But now this unlucky guy has to make a command decision again. One that is, do we let Eros Station go and Miller
die? He's not comfortable making those calls. He still looks around at everybody else.
Naomi has to neg him. She has to go, Holden, you gonna do it? You gonna make a fucking call? She gives him I know that we've only just kind of gotten into a relationship, but she gives him the girlfriend that's been with you for 5 years judging you look. She gives him this look of a girlfriend that's been with you for a long time and she knows how to play you. And she gives you this look. Rachel's giving me the look right now. She gives you this look of like, you will do it. But Holden is just so... I love this actor, Stephen Strait. He has such a
He's brought this character to life.
Yeah, and because he brings... I don't know how... This is a compliment. Somewhere in here, there's a compliment about how...
Are you going to neg him?
No, about how Stephen Strait has such a vacant expression. That it works in this character.
He's so hero protagonist.
But also, he has that Patrick Warburton thing where he has like a stare that's going off really to nowhere.
Yeah.
What's going on behind those eyes? Jack shit. And so when he has this moment of dramatic pause of, will he decide to leave Miller for dead? Or will he do the right thing? And Naomi does the, come on.
That also is risking all of their lives the right thing.
Yeah, and he decides, fuck it. Let's juice up and fly real fast. We're going to keep track with this station.
Yep.
A move so noble that it almost brings a tear to Christian's eye when she hears about it.
They're going to keep up with Eros even if it kills them.
I'm glad I vouched for him. I'm being a little facetious, but it was a good sequence of events.
Yeah. And it was well deserved, but it was extra cheesy.
And he had a little journey in the episode too, because Miller has accepted his fate.
Yeah.
And he thanked Holden for bringing him in, even for a moment, into his family. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Strait does a really great expression during that sequence where it's almost, they're my family, but also, wow, I haven't even considered that. They're my family.
Oh, yeah, I guess they are. Guess they are.
Because Holden is privileged and naive. That's his
Yeah.
character. And he's privileged and naive when it comes to this. Miller, he's jealous and envious of the fact that he grew up under a sky and had the ocean and had all of these things. And now he has this family that he's created around him and people respect him. And dang it.
And Holden has always been surrounded by people that care about him.
Yes, his 8
which
parents.
is not what Miller has experienced.
Not at all.
Even the people that were meant to care about him didn't.
No, his partner in crime did leave him behind with his nuke. The belter boy, the rock hopper kid.
Yeah, like he volunteered for that.
But Miller pushed him away, and in the end, he did go away.
Yeah.
While Holden, if he pushed this family away, they wouldn't go away. They would stay, just like they did in this situation, just like they did in so many others this season.
Yes.
Miller is a loner,
Yeah.
but he doesn't want to be.
No, but he also doesn't know how not to be.
And that's what makes him a really good character. Where was this in season 1? I know you would argue out there that, well, if you didn't have season 1, you wouldn't be where you are now emotionally with the character. You're right, but also, man...
I could have been further along as well. Like, if it didn't stall or go in reverse...
Hatless Miller, stronger character.
Hatless Miller is best Miller.
Miller Mohawk, my favorite Miller. And our last Miller.
Potentially.
He's on... I would love it if he lived. He's on Eros Station with his pet nuke, which is... I smiled so much when he said that.
I love that so much.
And he
I love that it kept going too.
And he smacked it like it was a dog that he was petting. Like, oh.
Like, oh, shut up.
Thomas Jane is a very physical performer. He's a shapeshifter of an actor.
Embodies.
He embodies each role he does.
Quite literal way.
And he, for 90% of the screen time he's given in this episode, is having to do a lot of physicality with this big, lumbering, heavy prop that he's having to run around with. And
he sells that it's hefty.
And annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And because of his range as a performer, I sat forward in my seat to watch a story of him having to deal with an annoying, heavy bomb.
Yeah.
While usually I would detach from that and kind of roll my eyes and go, okay.
Like, oh, okay, whatever.
We're going to
whatever. You're going to get to the middle. Just get to the
point. I don't want to watch. Usually, I would say I don't want to watch 40 minutes of you lumbering around a whole way and then eventually get to the point.
Yeah.
But because of all of the things surrounding it that we've gone through, and because of Thomas Jane's physicality and the humor that they put into this whole idea,
the pacing of it as well as like a part of that is good.
And
it's good.
The growing horror that he's walking into, the station becomes more weird and alien and organic and yet inorganic, and the voices
evolved.
It becomes something new, and the voices he hears gets louder and louder and louder. So instead of this just being a story where you could just say we're watching Thomas Jane climb up a ladder for 10 minutes and has to stop every now and then to push a button, which is logistically what happens. There's just so much poured on top of that.
Yep.
Something that Miller's plots severely lacked in season 1. Literally, it would be Miller is walking around until he finds a kid stealing water. That's his plot. And there wouldn't be much else to it.
That kid gets a tattoo.
That kid gets promoted.
Don't get all Holden on me. Weird and chatty under pressure.
Yeah. Must be real tough growing up under a blue sky. 8 parents slobbering all over you.
Hey now, wait till you get to know him better. It's got lots of layers.
Yeah. So does a rock tunnel.
And you are wondering, is is Miller just going to be allowed to keep walking through all of this, or will it grab him? Will it do what it did to Kenzo at the end of last season? Will he get dragged around? Will something come out of the woodwork?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the point of it's not happening like that. Why?
Yep.
Why is Miller not being touched by the blue goo like everyone else ever is? And I was thinking about that a lot during the episode.
Yeah.
Did you have any theories?
About why he wasn't?
Yeah, any theories about why he wasn't getting touched by the blue goo, why he wasn't going after him, and or what was happening inside of Eros all along?
I figured that it was sort of to do with the fact that the molecule was focused on the threat outside of Eros. So a threat within was seen as negligible. That's what I was sort of tracking it as, which is kind of what it
Yeah, it was being reactionary.
is. Yeah. Of like
Defensive.
like I need to worry about these nukes outside, not the nuke that's in. And it's just like, okay, not bothering with that. Was kind of the way that I thought about it. And I knew that it was going to be about Julie.
Yeah, I assumed it would
like
be.
it just felt like that was where this story was heading. Because it had to matter that it was Eros, it had to matter that it was Miller.
That's true.
And Julie was the origin of the molecule.
Yes, you're right. And I have to admit, it all adds up in great detail retrospectively, but I was so caught up with everything happening that I just didn't give it enough thought. And so I was a bit like, oh no, it's heading towards Earth because this was originally intended to head to Earth when it was on that the Phoebe station, like the blue goo.
At some point,
I assumed was like the scientist was launched to be the first
Fair
shot,
enough.
and so I thought, oh, now it's had the ability to do that. It is now doing that, and I assumed that Julie would factor in as she would be in the center of it all, but Miller would have to put her down for good this time.
Yeah,
but
no, I get what
the
you
way
mean.
that they did play it was not only more satisfying and made a lot more sense, but it was also clever.
It also very much feels like a book ending.
Oh, like the ending of book 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Which
can
it
see
is.
that. Oh, there you go. That's cool. But the reveal of what was going on was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so happy. I was smiling from ear to
tweaked
ear.
a bit before then. Like, when at some point during the episode, it registered that these are emotional responses. And I was like, I don't feel like that matches a proto-molecule.
Yeah, maybe not.
So that's why I was just like, I feel like something else is going on more than this. And then I was like, oh, Julie. It's going to be Julie. It was always going to be Julie.
She was where we started the series.
Mhm.
And so she has to be the running thread.
Yes.
And
it was Venus that they landed into.
But before we get to Venus, what was going on inside of Eros Station all along?
Julie's blue goo spread everywhere. And she was avoiding being attacked and defending herself, imagining that she was on her Razorback at a race, heading towards the finish line or home.
Which is Earth.
Which is Earth. Not realizing that she's now an asteroid.
There was this line, I think it was Holden, where he just says, are you going to try and negotiate with a girl who thinks she's an asteroid? And I got a good chuckle out of that. But it was so beautiful that she wasn't, the asteroid wasn't just heading towards Earth faster because of nefarious reasons, but again, these deeply personal and human reasonings, because the protomolecule can infect you, but Julie has managed to infect it back. And so an essence of her now lives in this protomolecule, and so she thinks that she's on her racing ship, and everyone's chasing after her, trying to beat her to the finish line, as you said, and the finish line is also home because she died alone and afraid and wanting to be
abandoned by the OPA.
Abandoned, and so she just wanted to give up fighting and to go back home. Sadly, that's what her dad assumed would happen. Remember?
Yeah.
You would grow out of this, you'll get tired of it, you'll give up the fight and come back to your security, to me. And in the end, she was doing that. But Miller comes in and gives a really beautiful conversation, and I was noticing that Miller's last scene, that whole moment of him taking off his outfit and talking to Julie and how it even fades to black, I was noticing the special effects there, but I was also noticing that this is just a short film. That whole beat just felt like a contained, short story in itself. You could just watch that on its own and basically get the gist of it all. It was really well constructed, and it was a great, not only just send-off for the character of Miller, but it was a great thesis statement of what his character's journey was. Julie inspired him in many ways, but in the greatest one was to reconnect to who he was always supposed to be. And I wanted to get your takes on that. You did not like Miller in season 1, and a part of that was he used Julie as this mythical conduit for his own self-improvement, yet he had never met her.
Yeah.
And so it was weird and creepy, and you said he was a loser in a lot of ways. And
I still think he is a bit of a loser, to be honest. But he's the kind of loser that I would want to hang out with now.
So does this work?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I don't feel like it negates those complaints, but it is part of the arc, and it has its place more clearly now that the arc is finished.
Why does it work better in this season, though, than in the previous?
I think it is that shift after he confronts that he's in love with Julie, and that's in the open. And also post his chat with the Mormon. I feel like that did a lot to adjust my feelings on this storyline.
I really do believe that once he believed she had died when he had seen the body, it unlocked a greater way to tell this story, which is instead of this being a case to be solved, a dame to be rescued, and an obsession.
A kidnap job.
It was an obsession in season 1. And since it was an obsession, there was a level of pathetic attached to it. Mm-hmm. While in this season, it was a longing and a loss.
Yeah.
Instead of it being an obsession that he was chasing after, it was this specter in his life that he could not get over, and yet he was trying. He was trying to be a better person. He was trying to move on, but like with any of us who loses a loved one or loses the potential for something more, you are haunted by that in your life. And that's him. That's him in this season. And it was very much an effective beat because you understand that as a person far more than the character archetype of the grizzled detective who's got the obsession to solve the case and get the girl.
I came an awful long way to find you. Because I believe in you. You need a guy like me. You need something. I know you're a fighter. I know. You can steer this ship.
And home, as a piece of entertainment, overcame a hurdle that you have had since every episode of this series, which is there's no real stakes because you know they're going to be fine.
Yes.
And I don't say this just because in the end, Miller and Julie die.
Yeah.
They sacrifice, they
but
drive
I'm not
into
confident
Venus. They're dead.
Super dead.
They drive into Venus and it explodes and everyone is mourning them and celebrating them at the same time. But I felt it during the episode that death is real in this one. That Earth could be lost, that the belt could be lost, that Miller could be lost because every person in the story, they acted like this is a thing that could happen. And instead of just moping about it, instead of crying about it, like with Naomi, I said earlier, there's a level of acceptance and understanding to it. Fred Johnson had the same. Christian had the same when she's sitting on the roof looking at the stars.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that there was
quiet acceptance of fate.
It felt real this time, and in the end it was.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I didn't feel the heft of it in the way that you seem to have. I was still too confident that they wouldn't destroy Earth. And it's that classic thing, again, that we've talked about of being a bit too familiar with media for my own good. Because with this one, they were so focused on conveying the galactic level threat that Eros flying through space brings. That I was just like, well, clearly the loss is going to be personal. Because it was so clearly going to be a flip.
Yeah, I understand that. And they also emphasized a lot on the personal, though. There was many conversations about, this is how we're going to save Miller. This is what we're going to do. Miller, you're going to do this. Amos says, hey, mute this. So what's the chances that this guy's actually going to live? Is he going to live? Is he going to die here? What are we doing? So I was a sucker for it. And I was a little surprised that he went. That Miller went, that he's gone. And they tease that, wouldn't it be interesting if I don't die here?
Yeah.
I believe he's dead.
I think he's dead the same way that Julie's dead.
You think he's blue gooed?
I think he's absorbed into the blue goo somehow.
But where is the blue goo now?
No. Now, I think the blue goo has been dispersed through Venus.
Oh, so do you think...
So I think it's that weird sci-fi thing of I think he's technically dead, but more than dead, I think he's gone.
We won't be getting Thomas Jane again.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
The fact that they had Thomas Jane is insane. He's not a small fish actor. He does a lot of stuff, but I look at it as he's gone.
Yes.
And
we're on the same page with that.
I think he is dead because they make a point of showing him and his sacrifice on the news and everyone's solemn reactions and cheering, and instead of the explosion in Venus being the end of the episode itself.
Yeah.
They go out of their way to show and be a little bit more ambiguous of like what we're talking about. But since everyone is mourning him at the end of this episode, it would be such a betrayal to me as a viewer if 2 episodes from now they're like, actually, his brain is in some blue goo and we brought him back.
Like, we've quoted a couple of the lines that, like, he ends this episode. It's his monologue that is sort of the final lines of this, with him saying, but if we don't die, that'll be interesting. Whatever happens, happens to both of us. It's going to be okay. You belong with me.
She's not alone, and nor is he. He's no longer the lone wolf, and nor is she. It works. It works. It's a well-defined arc. We've had some issues with it, but I was happy to see it conclude in this way, and yet surprised as well. They pulled the trigger.
Home is a firm and clear yum yum for me.
Yum yum.
On our rating system of yum being bad and yum yum being good, I also give it a firm, hearty yum yum.
Yum yum.
You already know what the title of next week's episode is, because now in the season 2 DVDs, it gives us a list
of titles.
With the titles, and also with the options for the commentary track.
Oh, you know it's going to be a good bunch of episodes coming up, because every episode on this disc has commentary tracks.
Yep.
Which means they're all bangers from here on out, baby. Mm-hmm. Weird that Godspeed didn't have a commentary track.
Yeah, well, I feel like my expectations are raised because of that knowledge.
So what's the title of the next episode?
Paradigm Shift.
Paradigm Shift. Now, do you have any predictions? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a mix of things. I think we are going to get a little bit of the Martians.
Which ones?
Again.
Who? Sorry, who? We have Martian characters in this show? Oh, Alex. His family might come in. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Oh, the Martian Prime Minister who we hear about but didn't get to see?
No. The Martian soldiers.
Oh, the Martian Marines. I forgot about them. Where were they this episode?
You brought them up earlier.
I know, I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious. Where the fuck have they been?
I guess I'm just going to keep on guessing that until it's true, or I am like, okay, they're with Havelock.
Oh, my prediction is Havelock will return. I don't think he's ever coming back.
Also think that Naomi is going to have to console Holden on how Miller's death was not his fault.
Oh no, I want this to be a good episode.
I think that that's going to be something that happens. I also think that Christian is going to have a nice conversation with her bodyguard.
Oh yeah,
he was in this
her
episode,
spy.
but I think they're going to have a nice little chat.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for that more than anything.
What about? We don't know. Just a nice chat.
And I think Amos will continue to be sexy.
What? Imagine if they didn't do that and you would be really upset.
I would
Rachel watches The Expanse for the plot, and the plot is Amos and his sexy muscles.
You know,
and I watch it for the plot of Christian and her amazing outfit. She had a really great outfit in this episode.
Yeah.
It matched the room.
I would be genuinely embarrassed if the actor heard any of our
You shouldn't be.
discussions.
You're buff. You know it. We both know it. Don't pretend you're hot. Don't pretend you're not hot, but you are hot. Hot to the touch. My prediction, I'm going to go in a very cynical route. And what I mean by that is the tone of the episode will be cynical. Since we haven't had that in a little while, this was a little bit more hopeful. I'm thinking that the Martian Marines will return and that they're all going to die except for the one main one that we know. So that way...
I buy that.
way, she has something now. Because I said that when we had that really useless episode where they were just reiterating these characters in a way where it's like, see?
Oh, you mean everybody's bigoted?
See? And they're now a team. I believe the next episode, they're just going to get wiped off the map by some shenanigans. Maybe they bump into the company and they have another blue goo, because the blue goo has to be elsewhere.
We've still got the parked blue goo.
Oh, yeah, maybe they crash into the parked blue goo and now they get gooed up. And Miller is laughing from beyond the grave going, see, I told you that was dumb. And my other scenario for a thing to happen is we have to deal with the fallout of Miller's sacrifice. And I believe, being a cynical little boy, I believe that Anderson Dawes is going to use this as a platform for the OPA's legitimacy as something in the galaxy, because Miller was a belter. He was one of us. And look what he did. He saved Earth. He saved Mars. He saved the belt. Long live the OPA. If not him, I don't see Fred Johnson doing it. But
No,
I see, you know who else I see?
Where is
Anderson Dawes? Yeah. He's still back with Havelock and crew back over there. But another character... Unserious. Another character I can see doing this is a rock-hopping friend, Diogo. He's now promoted. He was there with Miller in the final acts. He could be Mr. I was there with the hero.
Yeah, he's earned his stripes now.
I need to see some more nastiness from this show, and I think those are some avenues to go down. So that will be the next episode. We'll see if that all comes true, or if we all fall flat on our face. Havelock will return. He will return to make season 1 have a fucking point.
No.
If he does not return, season 1 is irredeemable. Because we wasted so much time on that loser. If we don't follow through on that, I will never want to watch season 1 again. Just saying it now.
I'm fine with that.
What a loser.
I'm fine with that.
We've been marked.
I'm fine with knowing that there was Hatted Miller and just ignoring it.
I want Miller's girlfriend to come back. The female detective lady. She was good, but that is it. You can find us on your social medias of choice under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. You can email us if you want to contact us directly over at
yumyumpod@gmail.com.
Let us know your thoughts or questions, queries, concerns about the things that we have discussed here today. Mm-hmm. No spoilers, though. Please remember, we're watching this through for the first ever time, and we don't want you to come in here saying, guys, you actually missed this little detail that wasn't actually in the episode, but I'm kind of telling you it's a detail, so that way you know that you're wrong about predictions that you've been making. Hey, let the show put the egg on my face. Don't you put it there. All right, I've been told some things that I shouldn't know. Oh, but we release these for our patrons first. We have a Patreon, and it is filled to the brim with content. We have so much content that we have many, many buckets worth of it that you can consume right now. So if you want to hear our thoughts on
steadily over the course of months.
Years even, perhaps.
There's years worth of content.
There's years worth of content over there. And so we release these for the patrons first. And so if you want to hear episodes right now, come on over to the Patreon to hear them now instead of having to wait so long for things to happen. All right? Thank you all so much. And until next time, remember that we have been marked safe from Havelock in season 2. And sadly, we've been marked safe from the Gaunt Belter. That is the saddest
travesty.
I never realized it, but they're joined at the hip. Those two. We met the Gaunt Belter the same time we met Havelock. That really upsets me. That really upsets me. That they're linked together. We haven't seen them since season 1. If we got the Gaunt Belter back, Does that mean Havelock has to come back too?
No,
But
it doesn't.
That's a monkey. That's a monkey paw curse of us asking for a thick belter accent.
For it.
You don't want the Gorn Belter's thick belter accent to come back and say "Dustus." Answer my question. Don't you just push the mic away and pretend I didn't ask a question.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't welcome it, but if the price is Havelock's return, I don't think I want to pay it.
Havelock's revenge.
See you then. Well, voila.